All right, here we go. We are live on the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic day. And no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we greatly appreciate you for making the 49ers Report a part of your day. It is NFL roster cut down day across the National Football League. As of right now, the 49ers roster not yet down to 53 players. Now, as mandated by the NFL, all rosters had to get to 53 players by 4 o'clock Eastern. But, of course, as you know, sometimes these moves are a little bit delayed and they don't get in by the buzzer. So, as of right now, these are the players who have been cut by San Francisco. Malik Turner, a little bit of a surprise as a special teams ace. I thought he was also a really capable pass catcher during the preseason. Made a couple of really big special teams plays in coverage in the preseason. Forced a fumble, made another big tackle. I would imagine San Francisco tries to bring him back. In fact, I want him back on this roster because that special teams unit was bad last year. It looks as though Niners going to go with 5 wide receivers. Dante Johnson, who is also nicknamed as the Barnacle. He has been a part of more than 30 roster transactions throughout his NFL career. Safety corner hybrid, also not making this initial, and that's the key word there, initial 53-man roster. Quantrez Knight, the UDFA, had impressed a lot of people throughout training camp in the preseason. As of right now, doesn't crack the 53. Segun Olubi, Tay Martin, Justin School, a little bit of a surprise because of that swing tackle ability. One of the bigger surprises, Kemoko Turay, the defensive end who came to the Niners from the Indianapolis Colts, he gets cut. And last year he had 5.5 sacks. Certainly has some ability, but on this defensive line that is really, really deep, he doesn't make this defensive line unit. I imagine he will stick elsewhere with a different team because all teams are looking for pass rushers. As part of the International Pathway Program, Alfredo Gutierrez of Mexico had impressed a lot of people over the last couple of years, but right now doesn't make this team. Maybe the Niners bring him back on the practice squad. Another big surprise is JaMycal Hasty. Last year, he was the Niners' go-to primary pass-catching back on third downs, but because there's a little bit of a logjam at that running back position with Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Ty Davis-Price, as well as Trey Sermon, JaMycal Hasty on the outside looking in, and then Jason Poe. He was getting a lot of backup reps at left guard. He doesn't make this team, but the UDFA out of Mercer, I think, could come back onto the practice squad. And then another rookie, Tariq Castro-Fields, drafted in the 6th round out of Penn State, another practice squad candidate. Willie Snead, his fate was sealed as soon as he dropped that touchdown pass in the final preseason game, and then he smiled about it. He really was just a camp body, and that's what we said at the time. Marcus Johnson, Jordan Mills, Donovan West getting cut. The latter, West, UDFA out of Arizona State. Maybe he comes back to the practice squad as a center that San Francisco can develop. And then Ken Crawley, Kadar Holman, Nate Sudfeld, and Tashawn Gibson, the remaining Niners cuts. As soon as we get the remaining names in, we'll of course update that list, and then we'll go through the entire depth chart for the Niners' initial 53-man roster to see what this roster is looking like going into the 2022 campaign. We'll also talk a little bit about Jimmy Garoppolo and take all of your questions and take all of your super chats. For now, want to get the comment section going. A lot of people got that notification. They're starting to pile in. If you're just joining us, this is the San Francisco 49ers Report. We are live. My name is Chase Sr., producer Coop on the ones and twos, the faithful, rocking and rolling with us from all parts of the world. Let's get that comment section going. Who's the most surprising cut today? Was it JaMycal Hasty? Was it another player like Kemoko Turay? Give me a name right now in the comment section, and I'll be sure to give you some shout-outs. Paul Bergenstock, TDP should not be in over Hasty. I don't think that Trey Sermon should make this team over JaMycal Hasty, if we're being honest, if we're judging it by the play that we've seen so far throughout this preseason. Treasure Kisses is here. Michael Norris saying Justin School. I thought Sudfeld was going to make it. Mamba Legend, he does not. If we didn't put him on that list, Nate Sudfeld, we can add him to that list, producer Coop. Steve Cass, Michael Turner saying Hasty. Russell Hill saying JaMycal Hasty. Turay from BK from the Bay. Turay from Sure from Tariq. What's up, Chase from Gary Bass? What up? Sermon is crap. Hasty from Eric. Hasty did not look good from Juanito, but he is arguably the best pass-catching back on this roster. Julian Rost, Chase dropping it as always. You already know the deal, Julian. Thank you for tuning in from the Carolinas. Movement, Sudfeld was painfully average, and I think that's why we saw Jimmy Garoppolo get that contract restructured, because San Francisco didn't have confidence in Nate Sudfeld as the backup. They didn't want Brock Purdy as the number 2. A big surprise here, Brock Purdy does crack this roster as QB number 3. San Francisco must have liked what they've seen throughout training camp in the preseason to have him make this 53-man roster, because they didn't want to risk him going out on waivers and then maybe being snatched up at a huge position, obviously, by a different team in the NFL. Chua Lore saying Jason Poe. Kyle Roth is in the house. Mac Daddy is as well. Skyrus, Rock Peebles, BK from the Bay saying that Purdy shows promise. There's no doubt about that. So with 331 people watching live, only 43 likes. Come on, fam. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We should be able to get to 100 likes as soon as possible. But for those of you who are joining the show for the first time or seeing that there's a Niners channel live right now on YouTube on Roster Cutdown Day, if you haven't subscribed, you legit ain't alive. Free daily videos on the San Francisco 49ers. We're talking news, rumors, analysis. That tweet yesterday came from Adam Schefter that Jimmy Garoppolo would be back. We were live about 25 minutes later talking about it. No other YouTube channel is doing what we're doing with the long-form analysis, so join the faithful family here at Chat Sports by hitting that red sub button down below. A lot of people in the comment section, they will tell you that the 49ers report is where it's at. What do you think moving forward for this Niners roster, as I want to interact further with the gang, is the biggest area of need on this football team? I want you to let me know here in the comment section once more. I'll give you some more shout-outs. Venom saying, what's up, Chase? What up, Venom? Skyrus, Niner Empire, Las Vegas checking in. Nice. Sin City in the house. J49, Hasty getting snatched up. He can get around the corner. He's also a pretty good pass-catching back and pretty good in pass coverage, unlike Trey Sermon at times. Dave Davis, sorry. Like is something I usually do first. I'm only here to see what happens to Brock Purdy. Well, Dave, I'm here to tell you, Brock Purdy made this roster. If we take a look at that quarterback depth chart, Producer Coop, we can take a look at the fact that San Francisco is going with 3 quarterbacks on this initial 53. And keep in mind that this is the initial 53-man roster. There are going to be some moves that happen in the next couple of hours and the next couple of days. There will be roster changes, but as of right now, Niners going with 3 QBs on the depth chart. Jimmy Garoppolo expected to be the backup week 1 against the Chicago Bears in Chi-Town to kick off the 2022 season. Trey Lance is going to be your quarterback number 1, and there you see it. Brock Purdy making the roster over Nate Sudfeld. So this is something that we talked about over the last couple of weeks. Did Purdy outplay Sudfeld and unseat him as a backup on this roster? He did. Nate Sudfeld gone. Brock Purdy, he remains with the red and gold. With Jimmy Garoppolo, just a couple of things that I want to talk about here that I think are of note and very, very important to pass along, especially with the financial components to this Jimmy Garoppolo restructure. We can talk about the optics. We can talk about him pressuring Trey Lance, breathing down his neck, and Trey Lance always looking over his shoulder, which I totally understand. That's a viable concern for me. Also, though, this is cutthroat NFL football, right? If you can't deal with competition when competition should bring the best out of you, maybe you're not supposed to be the franchise face. I believe Lance can become that. It is a little bit weird and awkward having Jimmy Garoppolo in the building, but from a team-building perspective, Jimmy Garoppolo can bring you a lot of value as arguably the best backup quarterback in the NFL. $6.5 million in guaranteed money. Pretty good going right there. But how much money do the Niners save? A lot of it, actually. So here are the interesting financial components to the Jimmy G restructure. We talked about this a little bit during yesterday's live show, but Garoppolo's contract, $24.2 million in base salary was it before the restructure. Now it becomes $6.5 million in guarantee. Now it can go up to 16 with incentives, but that's for the NFL's best backup at a really good going rate. The Niners in the process save about $18 million, and they also go from 32nd, dead last in the NFL in cap space, and they jump all the way to 5th. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan did just speak moments ago to the media about retaining Jimmy G. Here's what they had to say. Yesterday, this is funny, by the way. Yesterday was a great day for our organization. It was because of our belief in our team. Our patience was rewarded. We've been consistent. On a player of this caliber, you don't just allow him to walk. And Kyle Shanahan, he was surprised like many of us were surprised that Garoppolo is actually coming back. He's been retained, and he's going to be the backup quarterback for Trey Lance. Shanahan admitted he thought the chances of Garoppolo coming back were slim and none. Well, what do you know? Jimmy Garoppolo going to be on this team. So too is Brock Purdy. Both upsets there. Jimmy G being on this squad, and then Brock Purdy making it over Nate Sudfeld. A lot of people didn't predict that even as early as a couple of days ago. Just want to run through a couple of surprising cuts here as well on roster cutdown day. I don't believe the 49ers are officially at 53 players. I'm waiting to see. I don't think that they're officially at 53 players. As soon as they are, then we'll start really breaking everything down. But a couple of surprising cuts here. JaMycal Hasty certainly led the charge. 5'8", 205, one of the best pass-catching running backs previously on this roster. He was the Niners' go-to third down back. But the Niners going to move on from him. And I don't really like this team philosophy of holding on to a player like Trey Sermon just because he was a third-round pick when he hasn't been the better player over JaMycal Hasty. I don't really like that, but that's what the Niners are doing right now, taking Trey Sermon over JaMycal Hasty. And then some other of these surprising cuts on this team, as you see my notes down below. When teams operate like this, I think that Trey Sermon is just staying just because he's a third-round pick, not because he's proven to be the better player than JaMycal Hasty. More surprising cuts that we want to get to. Kemoko Turay. Last year with the Indianapolis Colts, albeit on a really good defensive line, he had 5.5 sacks. He signed a one-year deal with the Niners. I believe that salary dead cap hit was less than $1 million, so you don't have to eat a ton of money in letting Turay go. I think that he's going to hop on board with another team out there. There's no doubt about that. But last year, 5.5 sacks. This is a guy who does have a lot of value, and it's going to have some value on the open market, but struggled to really maintain that bend coming around the edge and didn't really impress a lot of people throughout training camp in the preseason. San Francisco can afford to move on from a player like Kemoko Turay because of how deep they are along the defensive line. They can go 2-3 deep at almost every single position from both edge spots to both defensive tackle spots. And then another surprising cut. It's a guy who all throughout training camp has been the backup left guard behind Aaron Banks, the athletic wonder in Jason Poe, who in the pre-draft process coming out of Mercer was getting tried out as a fullback at 300 pounds because he ran around a sub-5 40-yard dash at 6'1", 300 pounds. Does it make this team? I do expect Jason Poe to maybe come back on this 49ers practice squad as a possible developmental left guard for this organization moving forward. In case you're just joining us, let us know what you think in the comment section right now. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Nearing 500 people watching live. If you haven't subscribed, do so right now. Super chat just came in from my guy Skyrus. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at who the Niners have cut up to this point. Malik Turner, Dante Johnson, Quantrez Knight, Segun Olubi, Tay Martin, Justin Skule, Kemoko Turay, Alfredo Gutierrez, JaMycal Hasty, Jason Poe, and then more guys here. Tariq Castro-Fields, Willie Snead, Marcus Johnson, Jordan Mills, Donovan West, Ken Crawley, the cornerback who got released over on Sunday, Kadar Holman, Nate Sudfeld, and Tayshaun Gibson. Actually, Holman got released on Sunday. Crawley got released yesterday. A lot of these guys we've talked about over the last couple of days, but a lot of these moves happening over the last couple of minutes, and obviously Gibson, him being let go after a cup of tea with San Francisco, that leads me to believe that Jaquiski Tartt might be making a return to the San Francisco 49ers. I'm looking at the chat right now. A lot of people are fired up. My guy Birdman Drug Story saying the offensive line is trash. It is up to this point, and I expect the Niners to maybe make a move there. Antonio is here. Joe McIntyre, Niner 63. Christ Soldier, Joe McIntyre, Jimmy Clifton, Timmy Smith, Skullhead, Gamer, and Ganja. That sounds like a fun life right there. BK from the Bay, David Edmondson, Kyle Roth, and Dante Matthews all in here as well. As of right now, I have not seen anything on Jordan Mason. So haven't seen anything on Jordan Mason just yet. I'm looking at my feed here because the 49ers are not officially down to 53 players. When they are, we'll update the cuts and take a look at the depth chart at every single position. By the way, a lot of you are probably asking where the 49ers are on the waiver claim list. They're 29th. So 29th on the waiver claim list for San Francisco. First super chat of the day coming in from Skyrus. $1 super chat. Clap it up for Skyrus. Do appreciate that, my guy. Thank you for your support of the San Francisco 49ers report. I think we had another super chat come in as well. We have a $2 super chat from Movement DJS. You send in a super chat, you're guaranteed to get featured on the show and get a shout out. Anyone keeping track of how many cuts still to go? There's about 8 to 11, depending on if any came down over the last couple of minutes. And right now, I'm not seeing any recent cuts come in. Now, obviously, the deadline was 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. So it did happen approaching 40 minutes ago. But as you know, dog ate my homework. Facts didn't get in on time. Niners operating on the West Coast. They're obviously very much delayed. So thank you for those super chats that came in. Next up, this is one of my favorite questions every single time we go live. Where is the Niner gang hanging out? Got a quick break in action going from who the Niners have cut and some of these surprise cuts up to this point. Movement, who's faxing in 2022? It was a joke, just like the dog ate my homework type of joke. But where is the Niner gang hanging out? We'll give you some shout-outs here and wait for the remaining cuts to come in for the San Francisco 49ers. Antonio, Katy, Texas. Nice, we're in Dallas. Little Rock, Arkansas from the homie. BK from the Bay. Movement is in Sacramento. Chua Lore, Hamilton City, California. Julian, Tampa Bay. Sam Young, Los Angeles, Renegade, Sacramento, Jamie Bryant, Virginia, Sea Chicken Land from Wet Noodle 187, Newcastle, England from Joseph D. So we go international here on the channel like we always do. Gary Bass, Spokane, Washington, Fresno, Cali from Mamba Legend, Tijuana, Mexico, international once again from Ricardo, Kyle Roth, New Freedom, Pennsylvania. I believe that's center state, northeastern portion of the state. Used to work and live in Scranton. Yvonne Torres, Hollister, Yay Area from David Blanco, Canada A from Michael, San Antonio Team Master, Sacktown, Poe was cut from Antonio. Yes, he was. We talked about that a little bit earlier. 49ers all day, Memphis 10, South Korea from Venom. I told you, we have people watching from all across the globe. 530 people here. We're still waiting for the remaining roster cuts to come in for San Francisco. They have not come in yet. As soon as they do, we're really going to dive into this further and take a look at all of the transactions that have transpired. But of course, San Francisco, as they always are, well behind the 8 ball here, well behind the deadline of trimming down the roster on cutdown day to 53 players. We are going to be doing a mailbag a little bit later. Producer Coop, what do you got for me?
They're on Pacific time, so they're behind everyone.
Yes, literally and physically. It's frustrating, too. When you work on a deadline-driven environment and business like this, you're just waiting for the Niners cuts to come in. You're like, come on. But I decided, hey, we're going to go live either way. Actually had to push back the live 5 minutes because we had to give us time to see if the Niners were going to make some of these cuts. But either way, we're still live, kicking it out and hanging out with the Niner gang. Going to be doing a mailbag a little bit later. So if you want to join the show, make sure you use the hashtag 49ers. Better yet, you can super chat us to get those questions answered. I guarantee you that if you super chat us, every single super chat that comes in, you're going to be featured on the show. And then you can also use the hashtag 49ers. We'll do one mailbag. That'll come after we take a look at every Niners cut and then go through the 49ers depth chart to see what this roster is shaking like going into the 2022 season. I don't think we can get into the cut. I mean, we don't know, what players are going to be on the team or not. What are the next candidates to get cut from Taylor Curtis? Maybe like a Jordan Mason. There are a couple of players who you'd be surprised to make this team. I think the Niners might go with 4 tight ends. They might go with with Tyler Kroft as a fourth tight end, which is a big reason why Malik Turner got let go. And by the way, for those of you just joining us, on the waiver claim list, San Francisco, if they want to poach or get another player on the waiver claim list, they don't pick until 29th. It's because they were one of the final four teams last year. So hashtag 49ers. You can super chat us. Skyrus, get another super chat in. He's the leader right now in the Super Chat Hall of Fame. This is a good question here. 49ers or Cardinals have the home field in Mexico, and they play later on this year. It's going to be the Niners. San Francisco also bought broadcasting rights, I believe, over the pond in England or somewhere in Europe. That goes to show you that this fan base is spread worldwide, and that's why the 49ers Report is the largest 49ers News and Rumors channel on YouTube, with more than 61,000 subs as we approach 62,000. So when the Niners are on the road against the Cardinals, they're going to have that home field advantage. And there's going to be a sea of 49ers red, not the sea of fraudulent Cardinals red in the stands. And also, obviously, San Francisco does have a large Mexican fan base. So that is certainly a thing as well. Coop, we can go through all of the players that the Niners have cut. Moose Cow asking a good question. Should the 49ers get Alex Leatherwood? I'd love Alex Leatherwood. I'd love to take a chance on him. You know, if you remember, Laken Tomlinson, he was a former first-round pick too. And to start his career with the Detroit Lions, he was bad. He was awful. But then he gets traded to the Niners for, I believe, a sixth-round pick and ended up making it to a Pro Bowl last year and got the bag around $13 million per year because he resurrected his career. Could Alex Leatherwood do that, going from a dysfunctional organization in the Las Vegas Raiders to a non-dysfunctional organization in San Francisco? Possibly. So as of right now, here are the players who have been cut. Let's see. Is more news coming in? I'm on high alert here, taking a look at any news that's coming in. Nick Zakelj has made the initial squad. So he was a little bit shaky at first, got a little bit better throughout training camp. I have him on the depth chart, Coop, so we can actually hold him there. And it looks as though Zakelj, is going to be the player chosen as a draft selection out of UMass over Jason Poe. So these are the Niners cuts that have taken place, and we've been running through this list. They have not yet got to 53 players as of yet, but when they do, we'll be breaking this Niners roster down further. We just decided to go live a little bit earlier because we wanted to do it for the faithful. So Niners cuts as of right now. Malik Turner, the special teams ace and backup wide receiver. If the Niners kept 6 wideouts on the roster, probably would have made the team. I'd like to see him come back because he has good special teams ability for a team that was awful on special teams last year. The Barnacle Man, Dante Johnson. He has been a part of more than 30 roster transactions. He has also been cut, but his versatility to play corner and safety might allow him to come back to this team. Quantrez Knight, the UDFA, had a really good training camp in preseason. I think he might be a practice squad candidate. Segun Alubi, the linebacker, doesn't make the 53, nor does Tay Martin. Justin School has also been let go, has some swing tackle versatility, so he might be able to latch on with a different team out there. One of the bigger surprises today, Kamoko Toure, 5.5 sacks last year with the Indianapolis Colts. I really liked the pickup at the time for a good value signing and a guy who could play opposite of Nick Bosa or back up Nick Bosa and still rush the passer, but didn't do a lot to really impress this coaching staff throughout the offseason. Alfredo Gutierrez, international pathway player, he also has been let go. Another surprise, JaMycal Hasty. You can put Jason Poe in that category as well as some of these surprise candidates who did get let go by San Francisco. Tariq Castro Field, 6th-round pick out of Penn State. Really like his speed at 4.3. I thought he showed some things throughout the Niners preseason games, but not enough to make this 53-man roster. I think he, too, is a practice squad candidate. And let's be real, a player like Emmanuel Mosley back a couple years ago, he was an undrafted free agent. And he was, I believe, on the practice squad at one time. So you can still go from the practice squad to the 53-man roster and carve out a significant role in the National Football League. Willie Snead had a significant role in the NFL, but that was many years ago when he was catching passes from Drew Brees. Last couple of years, he's been awful. In the preseason, he was bad. He dropped that surefire touchdown from Brock Purdy late in the game back last Thursday and smiled about it. I knew at that point he wasn't going to crack this team, especially when they have Super Bowl aspirations. Marcus Johnson, Jordan Mills, the offensive tackle, who was the backup for Mike McGlinchey for a little bit of training camp. He continues to be an NFL journeyman after his career got off to a good start. He has been released. Donovan West, the UDFA out of Arizona State, would not surprise me one iota if he comes back to the practice squad to be a developmental centerpiece, but my expectations for him higher than what we saw on the playing field throughout the preseason and training camp. And then lastly, these 4 players have also been cut by San Francisco on roster cutdown day. Ken Crawley, Kadar Holman, Nate Sudfeld, Tashawn Gibson. He had a cup of tea with the Niners, and that tells me that maybe Jaquiski Tartt is going to be able to come back to this team. Speaking of offensive line and some of these players who have been let go, and this team in general, I want to ask you this question as we continue to keep it moving during our live show, just waiting for the Niners official roster to come in. What's the biggest area of need on this 49ers roster? Let me know right now, and I'll give you some shout-outs. I'm going to put the fan on me because it's starting to get a little bit hot here in the studio. You start talking a lot, as we've been doing for about, almost a half hour straight now, and you do get a little bit warm. So everybody is saying offensive line. Brian Caminati, center. Yvonne Torres, offensive line. Chua, offensive line. Mamba Legend, offensive line. George Gonzalez, offensive line. Justin, offensive line. Right tackle, offensive line from Sam Young. Center from Lloyd. Offensive line from Venom, tuned in from South Korea. Yeah, everybody is saying offensive line. And you're right. Now, Red and Gold for Life is saying cornerback. I disagree because of the acquisition of Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley playing well, but offensive line, definitely a huge need on this roster. What's up, Producer Coot?
Should they go and sign Alex Leatherwood, who was cut by the Raiders?
Yeah, that's what I was saying a little bit earlier. So Alex Leatherwood has just made that Mike Mayock, John Gruden tenure look even worse. I mean, almost every single player that they've drafted has pretty much been let go outside of a couple, right? Don't want to exaggerate, but they traded Trayvon Mullen today, and they cut Alex Leatherwood. So that goes to show you that Mike Mayock, John Gruden regime, they were struggling. They weren't good, and they put this team in a massive, massive predicament. Still waiting for the Niners roster to officially come in. I'm on high watch alert. We are still waiting to hear the word on 9 bubble players, and this is 50 minutes after the NFL deadline. Just brutal. Nick Zakelj, Jordan Mason, Troy Fumagalli, Keaton Sutherland, Alex Barrett, Akeem Spence, Curtis Robinson, Marcelino McCrary-Ball, and Taylor Hawkins. Those are 9 bubble players we have not yet heard about. And as soon as this Niners roster is made official, then we'll be able to officially look at the depth chart at every single position and walk you through all of the cuts that have been made. But up to this point, Niners haven't gotten that official roster in just yet. Speaking of this 49ers roster, as we're on a little bit of a standby here, 32 teams in the NFL, where do you think the Niners roster ranks among all teams in the National Football League? Let me know right now from 1 to 32 where you think San Francisco is among all teams in the NFL. We'll give you some shout-outs. My homie Noah GQ Pena is back in the chat. Joe McIntyre is here. Ray Franco, Lavelle Forrest, Gamer and Ganja living the life with that nickname. Zenith, top 7 roster. Byron Smith, 5. Ellis 10, top 5. BK from the Bay, 17th. Joe McIntyre, offensive line. Definitely the biggest need. Everybody, the consensus here, pretty much top 5 for this Niners roster, which is why, even with bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back, this team is in a really good spot moving forward. It might be a little bit awkward, but backup quarterback, one of the more important positions on a team, and obviously San Francisco wasn't all that confident in Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy to be the number 2 quarterback. And it's an indictment on Nate Sudfeld that Brock Purdy made this team over him, and Nate Sudfeld was let go. Patricio, top 5. Yvonne, top 5. Dave Rogers, top 3. Yeah, I'd say like top 5, top 7. Nick Zakelj has officially made the roster. That just in. So the rookie has officially made the roster. And that just coming in. The players who we're still waiting to hear about. 8 more. Taylor Hawkins, Curtis Robinson, Marcelino McCrary-Ball, who, man, if it wasn't for the Niners being so loaded at linebacker, I think he'd have a shot. Akeem Spence, Alex Barrett, Keaton Sutherland, backup center, who got pushed around against Minnesota a couple weeks ago. Truffaut Magale, and then Jordan Mason. So is Jordan Mason going to make this team over JaMycal Hasty? Because JaMycal Hasty was let go. Right now we're thinking, okay, might be 4 running backs, right? 4 that we know probably have made it. Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price. Are they going to hold on to 5? Also, what's of note, are the Niners going to hold on to 4 tight ends? That's a possibility as well. Going back to the comment section, nearly 700 people watching live. Make sure you subscribe if you want daily coverage of the San Francisco 49ers. We have you covered. News, rumors, and analysis. Taking a look at this question right here. My guy Dave Towers is watching from Australia. G'day, my brother. Byron McCants, he said top 5. Top 3 from Sam Young. Looking further at the comment section, I think Hawkins is solid. Give him a shot from Ray Franco. Lloyd Toussaint. I'll keep Croft. He has good hands. Solid. And with Trey Lance being the starting quarterback, will Kyle Shanahan go with more 12 personnel? 2 tight ends to go heavier sets, especially with the offensive line questions, so that you can have a better opportunity to be more successful running the football. And if you want to have 2 tight ends on the field at all time throughout the course of a game to protect your offensive line and to have an extra blocker in there for Trey Lance when he drops back, maybe they do hold on to Croft and maybe they do go with 4 running backs on this team. Sugar Shane letting us know he's tuned in from Antarctica. That's very cool. River J is watching from El Salvador. Juanito thinks it's a top 15 roster. I think you're being a little bit low on the Niners. I think they're anywhere between like 5 and 7. That's kind of where I'll go. Renegade Jake, Trey's team. It is. It is Trey's team. No doubt about that. Brent Smith saying top 10. Kalina, or Cali native, sorry. Oh, he just deleted his message. Let us know what you were trying to say. I was about to read it. Raul, Chase, we're still a running team. We're okay with 4 running backs. Right, but if they want to run the ball even further, maybe they hold on to Jordan Mason and they keep 5 backs and 4 tight ends. That would speak to the physical nature that Kyle Shanahan likes to play with. Niner fan Mitch, Spencer Burford going to be great. Yeah, Burford actually reached out to me a couple weeks ago. It's good to chat with him, man. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He actually watched my profile on him, and I think he's going to be successful. Might be some bumps in the road for him being a rookie and a young player, but I'm high on Spencer Burford, and it looks as though he's going to be the starting right guard for this team. So as we wait for the Niners to really decide the fate of about 7 to 8 players as of right now, let's take a look at some NFC West odds because it's a really close race. The Rams coming off that Super Bowl victory, plus 125. So they're the leaders to run it back and win the NFC West. Niners, of course, have historically owned the Los Angeles Rams during Kyle Shanahan's regime, except for the big one, that NFC Championship game. But Shanahan, 7 of 8 against Sean McVay. 49ers plus 175 odds, even with bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back and some of these Trey Lance concerns. Cardinals at plus 325. We'll see if for the first time in that Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray regime, they're actually going to be able to close the season out in December because of injuries and just lackluster play. They haven't been able to do that. And then Seahawks 16-1 odds. So that right there, the NFC West odds going into 2022. Skullhead, seriously? The Lambs just got lucky. Can't blow a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And I'd like to bring Jaquiski Tartt back as a backup center, but dropping that pick, man, that certainly was brutal. John Thompson, we're going to finish with the record of 12-5 or 11-6, playing in the Eagles for the first round. Fumagalli is the pronunciation. I'm pretty sure I said that. If I didn't, I apologize. Ellis 10, this chat is out of control. Start Jimmy, cut Kinlaw. I didn't see a lot of that, but if we're seeing that, That is a little bit crazy. All things are possible. Mac Jones. Mac Jones is like a Honda Civic. And Trey Lance, he's like a high-end Audi right now. Now, Trey Lance can become a Lamborghini, and maybe Mac Jones can become a high-end Acura. But they are two completely different athletes and two completely different players. I'd go with Trey Lance. All right, we're still waiting for the Niners to cut down this roster to 53 players. In the meantime, let me know in the comment section your most surprising cut from today. JaMycal Hasty certainly has to be on that list. Last year, didn't do a ton, but was one of the primary third down backs on this roster and a good pass-catching threat. Against the Houston Texans in that preseason finale, when he caught that touchdown, I thought, okay, maybe JaMycal Hasty, he locked down his roster spot. Or was that the second preseason game? Either way, JaMycal Hasty is a solid pass-catching back, and he's solid in pass protection. But I don't really like how the Niners went about this. They're going with Trey Sermon just because he's a third-round pick, not because he's been the better player as compared to JaMycal Hasty. So I think Hasty will have an opportunity to go to a different team at 5'8", 205. He's got some gusto about him and can certainly run physical. Good pass-catching back, and for another running back-needy team, we saw that Hasty popped a little bit last year. Certainly a good backup piece. Another surprising cut, Jason Poe played his college ball last year at Mercer. And throughout training camp in the preseason, he was the backup left guard for this team. And is very athletic. At points, when you watch the tape, he pancaked a couple dudes. And when he's out in space on some of those pull blocks, which are obviously really important in Kyle Shanahan's offense, he can do some damage. I think he's a prime-time practice squad candidate. And then another surprising one, Kemoko Turay, coming off that 5.5 sack season last year, former fourth-round pick from the Indianapolis Colts out of Rutgers. And throughout his NFL career, last year he finally found his footing, but before that was really struggling to find his way in the NFL. And when the Niners signed him to that one-year deal, the cap hit now, or dead cap hit, I should say, with him being officially cut and let go, little less than $1 million. But with the value play and the short-term deal, I like this signing at the time for a guy who's displayed some pass rushing ability, 5.5 sacks last year for the Indianapolis Colts, but struggled a little bit to have a form of consistency, especially when the pads came on. Athletically, he's certainly really athletic, but doesn't really have that bend coming around the edge. And because San Francisco is so deep across this entire defensive line, it made him disposable. He's on the outside looking in of this 49ers roster. So those are some of my most surprising cuts. Maybe Nate Sudfeld can be in that category as well after Brock Purdy beat him out for quarterback number 3. Who is your most surprising cut? I want you to let me know right now in the comment section. We had a super chat come in from Mac Daddy. We'll show that too as people get their votes in. Mac Daddy, this will get some people fired up and this will get some people rallying. He says this team is a good quarterback away, not named Jimmy Garoppolo. So Garoppolo comes back, and obviously Mac Daddy doesn't look as though he is a big believer in Trey Lance. But let me tell you why this team can still win with Trey Lance. Trey Lance is not a quarterback, admittedly, this year at least, who you want to drop back between 30 and 50 times. That's not a winning formula. But at the same time, that's not how this roster has been put together. That's not how this roster has been constructed. This roster is a physical, run-first team. It was that with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's still that with Trey Lance. But in the passing game, with Lance as compared to Jimmy G, I actually think the Niners are more explosive. I actually think the Niners have more big play ability with Lance's ability to really push the ball downfield. This is a good squad with the way that they've been put together. Offensive line is a huge question mark, but with Trey Lance, he's been set up for success. I don't think it's a terrible thing to have Garoppolo in the building to help his development by any means. In fact, I think it can help. It's going to be a little bit awkward. I think that Lance is going to be looking over his shoulder to a certain degree, but bringing back Garoppolo can help Trey Lance in his development, but also the amount of money that you save with restructuring Garoppolo's contract and the fact that backup quarterback is one of the most important positions on a team. That's why I've trended in a direction in which I like it. Now, we've talked about the possibility here on the channel of Jimmy G coming back. I just said it makes absolutely no sense to actually have Garoppolo as a backup with that base salary of $24.2 million. But that's not the case after the contract restructure. In fact, here's some very interesting financial components to that restructure. By the way, give me a follow on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with all of the latest Niners news. But Garoppolo's contract before the restructure was $24.2 million in base salary. Now, $6.5 million guaranteed with incentives that can make it $16 million, depending on if he plays and if he wins games. And the 49ers save nearly $18 million in the process. They get a really good backup if Lance does go down with an injury or if he does struggle for the long haul. And the Niners also go from 32nd, dead last in the NFL in cap space, all the way up to 5th. And I thought this was funny from John Lynch. This is totally GM speak. There's no doubt about that. But him and Kyle Shanahan just spoke a little while ago and said, yesterday was a great day for our organization. It was because of our belief in our team. Our patience was rewarded. We've been consistent. On a player of his caliber, you don't just allow him to walk. I mean, it got to the point where the Niners brought him back, though, John. And let's be real, because there was no trade market out there. Now, a couple of things happened because of that, damaged the trade value. The shoulder injury, the shoulder surgery, and then all the quarterback movement that took place in the NFL this past offseason with Carson Wentz getting traded, Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady out of retirement, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, like historic quarterback movement that we're talking about. And then another team that could have used him, like the New Orleans Saints. They went with Jameis Winston because of that base salary number. The Atlanta Falcons, they went with Marcus Mariota because of that salary figure. So that's why the 49ers brought him back. It's because of that contract restructure. It would have made no sense to bring him back under that salary number last year of $24.2 million. And now you look at this Niners quarterback depth chart. Very interesting here, right? According to reports, Jimmy Garoppolo will be QB2 week 1 against the Chicago Bears when the Niners open up the season on September 11th. By the way, we'll be doing a watch party for it in every single game this season. That's why you subscribe and join us. But one of the other surprises of today, Brock Purdy unseating Nate Sudfeld as QB3. Sudfeld has been let go. Brock Purdy, he has made the initial 53-man roster. He is in. Nate Sudfeld is out. Very, very surprising maneuver on this 49ers roster today. A couple of super chats that we can get caught up on here in a little while. Is the roster set? It looks as though the roster might be set. Jordan Mason has made the team, and Jordan Willis has not. According to Tom Pelissero also, 49ers have officially released Nate Sudfeld, Tashawn Gibson, Tyler Kroft did not make the team, Akeem Spence, and defensive lineman Jordan Willis. So, Coop, we got to take Willis off the depth chart as well as Tyler Kroft. So I think the tight end will become a depth 3, but that's very interesting nonetheless. And this is just coming in right now. So at running back, it's going to be 5 guys. Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Ty Davis-Price, Trey Sermon, and Jordan Mason. I think we also have to add Jordan Mason to the mix as well. But how about undrafted running back Jordan Mason making this team? That's pretty incredible. I'm just going to tweet out the link of us being live right now. So, yeah, Coop, I got you. As we just get our depth charts together for our official show, the running back depth chart will be Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Ty Davis-Price, Trey Sermon, and Jordan Mason. Just tweeting out that we're live here. Just stick with us. A lot more analysis to come as the 49ers roster has officially been made official. We're just getting our graphics ready. We don't take commercial breaks here, so we're working on the fly. And then I think Jordan Willis has to be taken off the defensive line depth chart. A little bit of a surprise that Jordan Willis doesn't make this team. Obviously he was the hero last year in the divisional round against the Green Bay Packers after he blocked that punt and Talanoa Hufanga picked it up and scored. With 804 people watching live right now, I'm looking at the comment section. Theo Romo, we can't be stopped. Lloyd, wow, shocked about Jordan Willis. Me too. Dick Tracy, our offensive line will let Mitchell down. Hopefully Kyle Shanahan can scheme him up. But no doubt, offensive line is the big question mark on this roster right now. No. Everything's done. Yep. All right, bet. No, we're good. Yeah, everything's done. Marsh, you just might have to update the cut list in the copy, but that's it. Yeah. So that's really it. But everything else is good. All right, we're about to break down this 49ers 53-man roster, and then we're going to go through all of the cuts as well. Of course, San Francisco, this is so on brand. The 53-man rosters were due an hour ago. San Francisco just got theirs in. Some teams had their roster set, like the Miami Dolphins, as early as like 10 o'clock this morning. Not San Francisco, though. They made us wait all day. Yeah, so, I mean, we basically have it all, Coop. So I can tell you some names to add. Tyler, tight ends, only going to be 3 now. It's going to be George Kittle, Ross Dwelly, and Charlie Warner. Take out Tyler Kroft. He doesn't make the team. And, of course, the Niners didn't release their depth charts, at least on social media yet. That's also brutal. What is the social media team with the Niners doing? For those of you just joining us, we are about to break down this Niners roster. I just want to give some verbal shout-outs. Ellis10, $2 super chat, thank you. He said the best ability is availability. That's a great saying, especially when it comes down to football. Skullhead80, Trey Lance's touchdown to interception projection this year. I'm going to say between like 25 and 30 throwing touchdowns and then like 5 to 10 more on the ground. So let's say anywhere between 30 and 40 total touchdowns for Trey Lance this upcoming year. And then Mac Daddy, no, I'm saying Trey is the guy. I'm sorry. I got you, Mac Daddy. I got you. So you were saying that this team is ready to win a Super Bowl with Trey Lance as compared to Jimmy Garoppolo because he was holding them back. I got what you're saying. You send in any super chats, we'll talk about them. We'll give you a shout out. What'd you say? Defensive line? Jordan Willis. Yes, yeah. Take Jordan Willis out. I'm not okay, here I'm going to send you this depth chart here. Okay, so the following players have been released and waived by San Francisco. I'll send you this picture, Coop. We're just reacting to this on the fly, so bear with us because we don't take commercial breaks. We decided to go live an hour early for the faithful. So the following players, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're just coming across us. We're about to look through the depth chart, graphics and everything, and take a look at some of the players who have been let go. So the players released: Troy Fumagalli, Tayshaun Gibson, Dante Johnson, Marcus Johnson, Tyler Kroft, Jordan Mills, Willie Snead, Akeem Spence, Nate Sudfeld, Kamoko Toure, Malik Turner, and Jordan Willis. The following players have been waived: Kevin Atkins, Alex Barrett, Tariq Castro-Fields, Alfredo Gutierrez, JaMycal Hasty. Taylor Hawkins has not made the roster. A lot of people thought he was going to. I think Jaquiski Tartt's coming back, so safety became a little bit thin if that is the case. Quantrez Knight really impressed a lot of people throughout training camp in the preseason. He doesn't make this team. Could come back to the practice squad. Tay Martin, Marcelino McCrary Ball does not make the team. So that's another name that was on the bubble. Segun Alubi, Jason Poe, Justin School, and Keaton Sutherland. Those are the players who have been let go. So, Coop, in total, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So 25 players in total have been let go. If that's on the listicle, cool. If you just want me to run through the list, because we can't get the list logo together, then we can just do that as long as the depth charts are good. So we're about to break down this Niners roster. Nearly 800 people watching live right now. Absolutely awesome to see. If you want more Niners news, rumors, analysis, live shows, watch parties, make sure you hit that red sub button. Yesterday, Jimmy Garoppolo, it was reported that he was coming back to the Niners. What did we do? We went live within like 25 minutes of that report getting out there and did a full show, and we were live for like an hour and a half. This is how we're built. This is how we move. This is what we do here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. And coming around the corner, we are about to talk about this entire 49ers depth chart and take a look at who made the roster and who didn't make this roster. That's what we're about to break down officially on the show. But we decided to go live an hour early prior to the Niners doing this 53-man roster. Andrew Lucero with the $2 super chat. If we could pop that up at some point, that'd be great. I verbalized the other super chats. We're just getting our graphics ready, so I hope all of you understand. Andrew Lucero, though, call-in today, O-line is worrisome. No call-in because we are renovating our office and our studio at Chat Sports, and we're limited on studios. And because it's 53-man roster cutdown day, everybody's trying to get in and out of these studios. So I can't stay live extra time to go live on Callin for a podcast, but at some point this week we will be, and that's why you subscribe to us on Callin. So, Darren, great work, loving this from the UK. NSYNC, saying Sudfeld, clown. Draco, hey Chase, my chin dropped at some of these. I agree. So in total, 25 players for the Niners today, because they made some roster moves yesterday as well as on Sunday, have either been released or waived. We do know the 49ers 53-man roster, and we're about to talk about it right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report, live here on Chat Sports, breaking it down live with the faithful, most interactive and informative, entertaining YouTube show covering the San Francisco 49ers. But for those of you just joining us, if you're waiting for us to get started, we are just about to break this roster down, depth chart for depth chart at every single position group. But we just had to get our graphics ready on the fly because, of course, the Niners, more than an hour after the deadline to cut these rosters down, they finally released that 53. This is of note, too. Per the Niners, Tyler Kroft and Jordan Willis have agreed to sign with the Niners later this week after Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson are placed on IR. So that's of note as well. Yeah, I can send that to you. We can hit that off the top. So breaking news here. This is according to Matt Mayoko, NBC Sports Bay Area. Tyler Kroft, Jordan Willis have agreed to re-sign with the Niners tomorrow. And that's after Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson, who currently hold spots on this roster, go on IR. So that means that Jimmy Ward will be out the first 4 weeks of the season. You got it? Cool. So that's pretty interesting. And that's a big hit. And that's another reason why I believe that Jaquiski Tartt is going to be back on this team. I mean, you let go of Tayshaun Gibson, and now Jimmy Ward is going to be on IR to start the year. He's going to miss the first 4 games on the road against Chicago, week 2 at home against Seattle, week 3 on the road against Denver, week 4 at home against the Los Angeles Rams. So you're going to be without Jimmy Ward for that stretch. So that significant hamstring injury ended up being a little bit more significant. Jacob, wide receiver list. We'll get to it. Only 5 of them. 5 wide receivers on this team. All this news coming down at the last moment. And we're about to talk about it at full length coming up here. So 49ers roster officially set, and we're just moments away from taking a look at every single player that's made this team. Substitute for Ward from Stephen. I think it's going to be Jaquiski Tartt. I mean, that makes so much sense, right? Played pretty well last year, has familiarity with this defense, didn't work out with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a surprise cut yesterday because the Eagles today traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson of the New Orleans Saints. Really good move for Philadelphia, a team who the Niners could be competing with and against for a roster spot, maybe even competing against come playoff time. Another surprise, not only do the Niners have 5 running backs on this 53, they only carry 9 defensive linemen on their initial 53-man roster. They released Jordan Willis and Tyler Kroft, but they're expected to come back later this week. That's because Curtis Robinson, Jimmy Ward going to go to IR. All things are possible. Kyle fears McVay. He's won 7 of the last 8 against Sean McVay. So I don't think so. J.F. Moeller saying, let's go. Are we almost ready to go, Coop? Could this be Jimmy Ward's last year from Kelly? It is the final year of his contract. MILF Hunter 69, love the channel. I love your name. Appreciate it. Don't forget, Debo will play some running back too. And you have Kyle Juszczyk, obviously, best fullback in the NFL. All right, about to break down this 49ers roster, so make sure you stay tuned. South Central, love the work you put in, bro. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're just working on the fly here. About to get this roster all set. We'll also run through all of the cuts as well. All right, San Francisco roster is set. About to talk about it. Andrew Lucero, trust the process. Amen. What can the Niners do to fulfill some of that free cap space? That's a really good question that just came in from David Sanchez. Ideally, get some offensive line help. Whether it's a guard, whether it's a tackle. Obviously, you have Trent Williams, but Mike McGlinchey, I'm certainly concerned about him. But maybe you fulfill a huge question mark on this team and you use some of that cap space on an offensive lineman. It would probably come via trade. Ready to rock? All right, let's break down this roster right now. Niner gang, the faithful, Niner Empire. Yo, 49ers roster, it is in 53 players as of now. We'll take a look at who's cracked the squad, who might come back, who has been let go, released, and waived. All of that coming up right now live on the San Francisco 49ers Report. All right, here we go. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. It is roster cut down day across the National Football League as all squads, all 32 of them in the NFL, had to cut down those rosters to 53 players. And right now, the 49ers roster is officially set. So coming up on today's show, we'll take a look at who made the Niners roster and the cuts and waive players that also took place. Do want to start off with this. First, we'll run through the players who've been released as well as waived, and then we'll take a look at the depth charts along every single position group on this Niners 53-man roster. So bear with me here because this list was just made official, and this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we're reacting to this live moments after the Niners officially made this roster complete. So the players who've been released: Troy Fumagalli, Tashawn Gibson, Dante Johnson, Marcus Johnson, Tyler Kroft, more on him in a moment, Jordan Mills, Willie Snead, Akeem Spence, Nate Sudfeld, Kamoko Ture, Malik Turner, and Jordan Willis. Also, we'll touch on Jordan Willis coming up around the corner. Those players have been released. The players who have been waived, it includes Kevin Atkins, Alex Barrett, Tariq Castro-Fields, the 6th-round pick out of Penn State. Think he's going to come back to the practice squad. Alfredo Gutierrez, the former international pathway player and offensive lineman. JaMycal Hasty, a big surprise here, best pass-catching back on this roster last year at the running back spot. Taylor Hawkins, Quantrez Knight, the rookie UDFA, who impressed a lot of people throughout the preseason as well as training camp. Tay Martin, Marcelino McCrary-Ball, another rookie UDFA who I really liked. I think he should come back to the practice squad. Segun Alubi, Jason Poe, Justin School, the swing tackle, and Keaton Sutherland, the backup center, who was getting all types of pushed around during the preseason. That's 25 combined players who have either been released or waived. But the important note here, this is the San Francisco 49ers initial 53-man roster. There are going to be roster transactions that take place in the next couple of hours and the next couple of days. Looking ahead a couple of days, this coming in from Matt Mayoko, NBC Sports Bay Area. Tight end Tyler Kroft, defensive end Jordan Willis, who blocked that punt against the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round last year that led to the Talanoa Hufanga score, have agreed to re-sign with San Francisco tomorrow. Safety Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson, who currently hold spots on the 53-man roster, will be placed on IR, and both are eligible to return to action after missing 4 games. So really the big takeaway there, outside of Kroft and Jordan Willis figuring to be a part of the Niners' plans on this 2022 roster, it's the fact that Jimmy Ward will be out the first month of the season. One of the best and most underrated safeties in the National Football League, the former high-round pick and captain of this defense, suffered that hamstring injury back a couple weeks ago. That injury, obviously a lot more severe than what we were led to believe, and he is going to miss Week 1 against the Bears, Week 2 against the Seahawks, Week 3 against the Denver Broncos, and Week 4 against the Los Angeles Rams. That leads me to believe that maybe Jaquiski Tartt could also come back to this team, and then there would have to be a corresponding roster move. Next up on the show, we're going to get an official look as of now at the players who cracked this 53-man unit. But first, who is the most surprising cut that took place today? Is it Nate Sudfeld, JaMycal Hasty, Jason Poe? Let me know right now in the comment section. Appreciate all of your feedback. When it comes down to the running back spot, I don't like when teams operate like this. JaMycal Hasty outperformed and played better than Trey Sermon throughout preseason as well as in training camp. He serves a bigger purpose on this roster than Trey Sermon because he is a more capable and relied upon pass-catching option coming out of the backfield. The only reason that Trey Sermon made this 53-man roster is because he's a third-round pick, not because he's the better player. And I have a problem with that philosophy because now I think JaMycal Hasty is going to latch on with another team, and he could be an impact backup running back with another one of the 31 teams in the NFL. Folks, at the end of the day, this is why you subscribe to the channel. We went live an hour early before the Niners 53-man roster was set. And as soon as that roster was set, we got our graphics together and we're pushing out a video. What you can expect, a very high standard here on the Niners Report, daily coverage of the latest Niners news, rumors, and analysis. So hit that red subscribe button down below as we close in on 62,000 subscribers. Here are the players who have cracked the 53. A big surprise here, Brock Purdy unseating Nate Sudfeld and making the 53-man roster. Nate Sudfeld not. So the quarterback depth chart, Niners have 3 of them. Trey Lance is your starter. Jimmy Garoppolo will be Lance's backup Week 1 against Chicago in his home state of Illinois. Awkward much? Yes. That's also the place where the Niners turned around their season last year. And then Brock Purdy is QB number 3. To the running back depth chart here. A lot of surprises here and a lot of movement throughout the day. We weren't sure what was going to happen. It's official now. Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price, and Jordan Mason. Kyle Shanahan going with 5 backs. I understand that the foundation of this team is running the football with the outside zone scheme. A little bit surprised, though. 5 backs make the 53. And, of course, Kyle Juszczyk, the best fullback in the NFL, making this team as well. Speaking of that running back room, it's a wide-open competition right now because Elijah Mitchell continues to get hurt and banged up. Who will lead the Niners in rushing yards this year? Give me a name down below in the comment section. Let me know right now. To tight ends now. I thought that Tyler Kroft was going to make the initial 53. Well, as we know now, he's going to get signed a couple of days later or even as early as tomorrow, according to Matt Mayoko. George Kittle, Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelley, your top 3 tight ends. But because I expect Kyle Shanahan to go with a lot more 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends on the roster, I think that's why they want to bring in Tyler Kroft. Also, you have 4 tight ends. That's extra protection for an offensive line unit that does have some holes to provide pass pro for Trey Lance and obviously help out in the ground game as well. We pivot now to offensive line. The offensive line from left to right, massive question marks outside of Trent Williams. Best left tackle in the game, holding it down on Trey Lance's blind side. Then it's Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Mike McGlinchey. Banks, Brendel, Burford. A lot of concerns with them because Banks has started and played in 1 game in his NFL career. He's certainly been choppy throughout training camp in the preseason. Jake Brendel is a first-time starting center at 30 years old. Spencer Burford, I like him a lot, has a really good head on his shoulders. He's been pancaking dudes throughout preseason, but he's a rookie nonetheless coming out of UTSA. And then Mike McGlinchey, coming off the torn quad, also has some knee issues. I'm worried about him. And then the backup offensive lineman, Colton McKivitz, Daniel Brunskill, as well as Jalen Moore. Now, in the lead-up to the regular season, now that the 49ers have saved nearly $17 million in cap space with the restructure of Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, I expect the Niners to try to upgrade this offensive line, or at least I would hope that they upgrade this offensive line. I have trust in Kyle Shanahan that he can scheme the run game up in a way, as well as the pass game in a way, to absorb the offensive line being somewhat porous and there being concerns there. But I would imagine that San Francisco makes a deal for an offensive lineman. Isaiah Wynn, a trade with the New England Patriots. Andre Dillard, a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe even it's a signing of Alex Leatherwood, who was cut and let go a year after being a first-round pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. You need better depth. You need better overall talent. John Lynch, Adam Peters, Kyle Shanahan, that's on you. Now, there are 32 teams in the National Football League. I want to hear from you once more in the comments section. Grade the Niners roster among all teams in the NFL from 1 to 32. Get that comment section popping. Going to go back to see what all of you say. Before we shift over to the defensive side of the football, today's show presented by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. If you head to chatsports.com/49bet and enter the promo code Niners125, you get a 125% deposit bonus for first-time signups. What does that mean? You put in $100 into your account, you get an additional $125 back. And take a look at how things are shaking out from the odds makers in the NFC West. Los Angeles Rams coming off the Super Bowl championship. Yes, it hurts to say that. The leaders at plus 125. Niners right on their heels at plus 175 odds, followed by the Cardinals and Seahawks. The Sea Chickens at 16-1. They're going to be a dreadful football team this year. 2 defensive line. Niners keeping 9 guys on the 53. It will become 10 once they bring in Jordan Willis, as we talked about a little bit earlier. Samson Ebukam, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa. Those will most likely be your starters from left edge to right edge. The backups, Drake Jackson, of course, is going to make this team as the second-round pick out of USC. Kerry Hyder has been named by the coaching staff one of the defensive MVPs this offseason, along with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. As soon as I heard that, had a good idea that Hyder was going to come back. Kevin Givens, Hassan Ridgeway, Charles Omenihu rounding out the defensive line depth chart. To linebacker now, there are 5 of them. Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shire. I think this, by far and away, the best linebacking core in the NFL in terms of overall talent and overall depth. Oren Burks will be a very good special teams player coming in from the Green Bay Packers. And then Demetrius Flannigan-Foles, after he re-signed with the Niners this offseason, has a job once again. Now we transition to the secondary. I think this unit from last year is much improved because we don't have to watch or worry about Josh Norman or Drake Kirkpatrick playing any longer. They upgraded with Charvarius Ward, who likes to be called by Mooney now. Emmanuel Mosley didn't give up any touchdowns in pass coverage last year. You upgraded at those 2 spots with your starters, and then also in the slot with Samuel Womack, who has become a pass breakup machine. He did that at Toledo, 53 career games of 46 pass breakups. He's been getting after it throughout the preseason. Really love what I've seen from him. Talanoa Hufanga looks as though he is going to be pitted as the starting safety on opening day, but who's it going to be on the other side of him at free safety? Because Jimmy Ward is going to enter the season on injured reserve. Will it be Tarvarius Moore? I doubt it's going to be George Odom. Could it be Jaquiski Tartt because he knows this defense? Maybe. Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas also making this team. And then we round out with our specialists. Now, a lot of you see this list and you're like, well, hold up. What about kick returner, punt returner? Well, if you remember, I don't think we went through wide receiver yet, but we will if we didn't. Ray McCloud is going to be the punt and kick returner as of now. So specialists, it doesn't include the return men. Robbie Gould is going to be your place kicker. Mitch Wishnowsky is your punter. Tabor Pepper is your long snapper. And then you look at the wide receivers here, 5 of them making the team. And that's it because Malik Turner got let go. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Ray McCloud, and Danny Gray. I do like the makeup of this receiving unit because you have a whole semblance of talent and ability here. Deebo Samuel can do it all, especially yards after the catch. Brandon Ayuk, very similar in that regard, but more of a vertical threat than Deebo Samuel. Jawan Jennings, a possession wide receiver who gives you size from the slot, and then 2 burners and gadget guys in Ray McCloud and Danny Gray, who I'm excited to see Kyle Shanahan use this year because I think they're more than gadget guys. So that is your wide receiver depth chart there. If we missed it a little bit earlier, we apologize. We showed it a couple of times during our live show. So with what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, Adam Peters were able to do, how would you grade this Niners 53-man roster and the decisions that this front office made? I'm going to give them around a B grade, but you let me know right now, A, B, C, D, or F. Okay, get those votes in. How do you think the Niners did? NSYNC saying, good luck with Geno Smith. Uh-oh, is there a Seahawks fan in the chat? Diehard Niners for life saying F-. My goodness. Fallen George, A-. Seth Dunbar, B. Thomas Myers, B. Chua Lore, A. Jamie Bryant, B. Julian Rost, he's going B+. My Dogs and More, A. Cooking with the Thomases, B. Gary Bass, A. Pete Gorman, A+. Art by Chatal, I'm worried about the offensive line. Art, you're not the only one out there. All of us are worried about this offensive line. Next up on the show, we're going to do a quick mailbag before we hop on out of here. Make sure, if you want to join the program, a couple ways for you to get involved. We have a couple of super chats that came in. We went through all of those, but also hashtag 49ers or super chat for you to join the show. Going to be doing a mailbag. So do you have any questions about this roster? Make sure you get them in right now using the hashtag 49ers. As for those super chats, let's catch up on them. You want to send in your donations? It allows us to hire new people. Ellis10, the best ability is availability. Unknown. Yeah, it's a known saying out there, and it is a very good saying. And that is very, very true. You got to be available. You can't make the club from the tub. Another iteration of that from Ellis. Mac Daddy, I'm saying Trey is the guy. Sorry. Yeah, because earlier we weren't sure if he was saying that Trey Lance is going to be a bust or what he was trying to decipher. But we got you, Mac Daddy. Skullhead, $2 super chat. Trey Lance's touchdown to interception projection this year, I think anywhere between 30 and 40 combined touchdowns. That's my projection for Trey in his first year as a starting quarterback. And then Andrew Lacero asked if we're doing call-in today. Don't think... No, we are not doing call-in because of lack of studio space, and we're doing some renovations here at Chat Sports. So that's why we're not doing call-in. So no on that, but later in the week we'll be doing call-in. Definitely in the sack include Chua Lore's question about Alex Leatherwood, that's for sure. We'll do this mailbag. Let's get to like 10 or 11, and then we'll hop on out of here as we have a lot of work to do across the board. No, we don't need a loop, just so people can do their cuts. All right, mailbag coming up here on the 49ers Report. Plug call in here if you can. Middle portion of it for sponsor read, Coop, not off the top. Get those questions in, hashtag 49ers. If you have a super chat for me, get those in as well. We ready to rock? Start taking your questions right now. Very exciting week for the San Francisco 49ers and all teams across the National Football League as we have a better idea as to what this Niners team is going to look like going into the season opener September 11th against the Chicago Bears with the NFL regular season coming up around the corner. So with that, the homies, the Niner gang, the Niner Empire, and the faithful, you have a lot of questions. I have your answers. Let's start to break them down right now. We kick off this mailbag with this one coming in from Chua Lore. Makes an interesting point here and an interesting question. Should the 49ers sign Alex Leatherwood? I would. I would take a chance. He was let go by the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that Alex Leatherwood can be revived to a certain degree. You look at how Laken Tomlinson started his NFL career with the Detroit Lions after being a first-round pick. He was a bona fide bust. The Lions gave him up for what I believe was a sixth-round pick from San Francisco. He developed and turned into, with a more stable organization, into a very good left guard, and last year made it to the Pro Bowl and then cashed in an NFL free agency. Now, I'm not saying that Alex Leatherwood is going to be on that path, but I think that Alex Leatherwood can give you some really good depth on this roster that certainly needs it along the offensive line. Another reason why I like Leatherwood, yes, he played for Nick Saban at Alabama, but most importantly, he has guard and tackle versatility. Bring him in, see if you can develop him up into being that player that other teams saw, which is why they had him pegged to be either a first-round pick or a second-round pick last year in the NFL draft. $2 Super Chat coming in from Skullhead80. Trey Lance's touchdown interception projection this year. I think that Trey Lance is going to have a good year, but I think he's going to be somewhat harnessed in the pass game. I still expect him to combine for about 30 to 40 rushing and throwing touchdowns in his first full year as a starter. That's pretty good numbers right there for a guy who is very, very inexperienced. The Gingerbread Man's Trucking. Love to see it. Definitely some surprises on roster cutdown day. JaMycal Hasty for sure got me. I agree with JaMycal Hasty. And the Niners went with 5 running backs on the depth chart, Coop, if we could take a look at it. And JaMycal Hasty on the outside looking in. I truly believe that Hasty has a spot on an NFL roster in this league as a guy who brings some physicality and some pop to that running back spot and can catch the ball out of the backfield, and it is a pretty solid pass blocker. But you look at what the Niners did with this 53-man roster. They go Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price, and the rookie UDFA out of Georgia Tech making this team, as well as Kyle Juszczyk at that fullback spot. So 6 combined running backs and fullbacks, but when you have a competition like this, one guy has to get cut. I probably would have cut Trey Sermon because he hasn't shown me much, but JaMycal Hasty, he was put on the chopping block. Who is, among all of the 49ers roster cuts that have taken place this week, the most surprising cut? Let me know right now in the comment section. Move ahead with this one from Justin Abalera. 3 quarterbacks? Yes. So over the last couple of weeks, we've had this conversation, and I posed it for the audience, and it's been a mixed response from the faithful. Who should be, at that point that we were asking it, because Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't coming back, quarterback number 2 behind Trey? Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy? Well, in the Niners' eyes, Brock Purdy did a lot more to impress them as compared to Nate Sudfeld. Sudfeld's been let go, folks. Brock Purdy has made this 53-man roster. And with the Niners being deep at a couple of other positions, a little bit of a surprise here to go with 3 quarterbacks, but that goes to show you they have a lot of faith, they have a lot of confidence, and they like what they've seen from Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Dr. Jaspreet, my guy, he was a big baller super chatter last year during our playoff watch parties. Who are the Niners hoping to claim off of other teams so far? Offensive line. The name that I'm honing in here on is Alex Leatherwood. I'm going after Alex Leatherwood. I'm taking my chance with talent. I'm taking my chance with pedigree. He's been bad for Las Vegas, no doubt about that, but I'm at least trying to see if he could go from a dysfunctional organization to a more well-run organization with a better coaching staff to see if you could bring out the best in Alex Leatherwood. T-Master82, what are y'all's thoughts on Burford? I like Spencer Burford a lot. I think that Burford certainly has a lot of ability. Super Chat's coming in, by the way, Coop, from Matt as well as Draco. I think that Burford has a lot of ability. I like his aggressiveness. I like the toughness in which he plays with. That first preseason game against the Green Bay Packers, he was driving people into the ground right up until that whistle. And I think that's the mentality you have to have as an offensive lineman. Now, obviously, he went to UTSA. At the time, he was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, but he went to UTSA. So the level of competition, not like what it is at the SAC level. So that's going to be a little bit of a jump for him. And, of course, rookie hurdles. But down the road, I expect Burford to play well. Has that athleticism, too, that I like because in college, he played tackle, played guard, and played a lot at UTSA. Now, we're not going live after roster cutdown day on Callin, but after every single game in the preseason and in the regular season, we'll be going live on the podcast app that is called Callin. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better, and you have the opportunity to call into the show, and I don't just get to read your questions and read your takes and super chats like we do here on YouTube. That's why you got to download the Callin app by heading to chatsports.com/49ersCallin. It's available in the iPhone and Android stores. Download it, subscribe to the 49ers Report so you can call into the show and join the conversation and sound off. Couple of super chats to get to as another one came in from my boy Hitman L. Draco, I don't like this cut for real. I hope they pick up other corners, did you mean? And I'm not sure which cut you're talking about, but Draco, let me know in the chat which cut you don't like. I know you said a little bit earlier your jaw had dropped at some of these cuts that happened, and I agree with you, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. I mean, I saw that tweet from Shefty, and I was like, what? Garoppolo's coming back? The Niners? What a plot twist. They pulled off the impossible. Draco, thank you for that $2 super chat. Let me know what you mean, though, in terms of CTs. I'm not sure if you meant cornerbacks. Matt LaVale, give Alex Leatherwood a look. That's what I continue to say, and that's really been a big topic of conversation on today's show, is just give Alex Leatherwood an opportunity to make this roster. I think that you can develop him over time, and at the very least, he gives you a better backup option than some of the other options that you have on this football team. Hitman L, $5 super chat. I know y'all are mad about Hasty, but honestly, he's done nothing and gets lower leg injuries all the time. Sermon is on his second year and deserves a spot. And I see where you're coming from. Like, you don't want to give up on a third-round pick yet, but I think that Hasty has performed better when he's been given the opportunities as compared to Trey Sermon. There's a big reason why Hasty was on the field in the NFC Championship game and Trey Sermon wasn't. There's a big reason why Sermon was making plays throughout the preseason and Trey Sermon wasn't. Sermon has looked indecisive. He's lacked physicality. He's lacked power. But obviously, because of the pedigree of him being a third-round pick, that's why he cracks the Niners' 53-man roster. Speaking of that running back spot, who do you think will lead the Niners in rushing yards this year? Let me know right now down below. Julian Rost, bring on the NFC West, quest for 6, and right now San Francisco, 5 Super Bowls. If they get another one, it'll be litty. And man, we will party so hard on the 49ers Report. NFC West odds, by the way, Julian thinks that the Niners have a shot. So too do the odds makers, even after the acquisition and the retainment of Jimmy Garoppolo. Rams plus 125 odds, 49ers plus 175, Cardinals, Seahawks rounding things out with this NFC West odds. Justin Abalera, are we the team to beat in the NFC West at this point? I think the Rams are, just because they have less question marks across the roster, and especially at that quarterback spot. Let's be real. Matthew Stafford right now, better than Trey Lance. Can Lance become better than him down the road? Maybe. But that roster is really, really good. And at the most important position, quarterback, less question marks. Skyrus, Deshaun Gibson cut confirms Tart. Not official, but I would believe and I would guess that Tart comes back, especially with Jimmy Ward going on IR to start the year. That means that he's out for the first 4 weeks of the season. Mr. Block Ice, with the look of our offensive line, is this run-heavy offense? It could work. The run game is a must to help Trey, in my opinion. And I agree. You have to set Trey Lance up for success. How do you do that? Establish the ground game, give him some easy throws and easy completions, allow him to boost up his confidence, find a rhythm, and really just get his feet wet. Totally agree in that regard. Nick Fury, the Seahawks fan who is a closet Niners fan. Hey, Chase, my team is screwed with Geno Smith, but at least we got Bryce Young in the draft next year. It's going to be a long year. Get ready for that lucky green Niners hat week 2. That's funny, Nick. Yes, you're screwed with Geno Smith. You're screwed with Drew Lock. There's no guarantee you're going to get Bryce Young. And I hope the Seahawks don't, because I think he's a good quarterback prospect. As far as you wearing that Niners hat week 2, that's the bet that Nick Fury and I made. If San Francisco takes down Seattle in week 2, Nick Fury will call into the show and we'll put a Seahawks fan live on the program rocking a Niners hat. Can't wait to see it, and it's going to happen because the Seahawks suck. Wet Noodle 187, type FC, by the way. Do you think that Jimmy will be on the team all year? Impossible to say from my guy, Wet Noodle 187. I think if a quarterback injury happens and Garoppolo becomes a really good trade candidate, if Daniel Jones struggles with a team like the New York Giants, because now they can absorb that contract, or at least it's a lot more feasible to take him on, then Jimmy G could get dealt to a team like that. Quarterback injured, quarterback struggles, quarterbacks or a team that has quarterback questions moving forward. Jimmy Garoppolo could land on a couple of rosters out there. So, good stuff right there from Wet Noodle 187. Before we get out of here, youtube.com/49erstv. Make sure you hit that red sub button to subscribe to the channel. Year-round Niners coverage. Appreciate all of you for tuning into the show, and appreciate all of you for getting those questions in. Couple more super chats that did come in from Andrew Lucero and Jorge Delgado. Let's run through those really quickly. Jorge, when will the 16-man practice squad be announced? I think that's tomorrow. I think it's Wednesday. I think that's what's happening tomorrow. Andrew, expect a video, by the way, too. Andrew Lucero, no Sudfeld means no Jimmy G trade. You could always bring Sudfeld back if there was a Jimmy Garoppolo trade. But Brock Purdy as the quarterback number 2, that puts you in a really wobbly position. So you do have a point there. But again, if the Niners get blown away by an offer, they could trade away Jimmy G. All right. Going to put the timer on here. If we get any more super chats in this side 2 minutes, then we will stay live. If not, then we'll cut it off. Already, we've been live for an hour and almost an hour and a half, almost 90 minutes. This is why you subscribe to the channel. We got close to 1,000 people watching live at one point. Joe McIntyre, Chase would be a great announcer or announce a Niners broadcast. He'd be great. That'd be awesome. Raul, $10 super chat. Let's go. We're $10 away from $50 in super chats. You know what that means. $50 in total super chats. I'm shotgunning a beer. Raul, 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 Raul. This super chat is only to help with the hiring more people like Chase. Thank you for keeping us informed all year round. Chase is the #1 show. My guy, appreciate that. And honestly, that's what these super chats do. I got hired, started March 1 last year here at Chat Sports. I was the 8th employee, and now, a year and a half later, we have 20 new people. It's because our audience continues to grow. You all continue to engage with us. You watch our videos. You like our content. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I probably work 6 to 7 days a week. I'm never off because, 1, I don't want to, and 2, the news and the grind never stops. But that's where your super chats come in. We don't just take super chats to drink. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, they. We get these super chats because they really help us out with everything that we do here on the channel. Raul, you're the man, dude. I'm smiling because of all your support. Greatly appreciate it, man. Love to see that yellow show up in the chat. How did the Niners do today on their 53-man roster cut down? By the way, I got to reset the shot clock here. $10 away from 50, and then I'll shotgun a beer here on the channel. Let's ride. SF 49ers fanatic. Love your energy, Chase. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my guy. Lloyd Toussaint. He's given the rosters a B with some of the decisions that they made today. Chua. Chase, if Jimmy leaves in 2023, do the Niners get a comp pick? Yes, they do. They do. Mr. Block Ice, B. We're 30 seconds into our 2-minute shot clock. Any more super chats come in? We continue to stay live. 10 away from another shotgun, and I'm feeling like I can get after it.
I've got a question for you.
All right, let's go.
Does keeping Jimmy G undermine Trey Lance and his ability to be QB1 all year?
A little bit. A little bit. I think that there's no doubt that Trey Lance is going to be looking around his shoulder. I also think that the Niners probably consulted with Trey Lance. And those are the reports out there. They spoke with Trey, and they asked him probably, hey, we're thinking about bringing Jimmy G back. We have some concerns about Sudfeld, Brock Purdy being the QB2 because let's be real. If Trey Lance gets hurt and Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy are your backups, you're kind of screwed with the team that has Super Bowl aspirations. Now, the offense has been built around Trey Lance. But they can easily go back to that offense for Jimmy G because the players are here, he's here, and they have that playbook, and they have those schemes. So a couple ways to definitely look at it. There's no doubt about that. But $6.5 million for the best backup in the NFL, when the Eagles a couple years ago paid like $9 million for Nick Foles, it's pretty damn good. 20 seconds left on our shot clock. Any more super chats? We stay live. $10 away from a shotgun. I'm feeling bold. I'm trying to get to that Kid Cudi concert tonight in downtown Dallas. So, yeah, that's true. So, all right, 2 minutes about to expire. We'll give it about 30 more seconds for that delay, if anybody is watching on delay. And then we'll sign off here. To everybody who tuned in today, this audience was awesome. About 1,000 people watching live today. And then yesterday, after the news came out about Jimmy G, we had a great audience. More than 700, 800 people tuned in. So we're really picking up steam as a go-to Niners channel out there. And this is why you subscribe at the end of the day. All right. We are out of here on the San Francisco 49ers Report for all the super chats, all the engagement, all of you watching. We greatly appreciate it. We ain't taking much time off. I'll see you tomorrow right here on the channel. Appreciate all of you.